This conversation is taking place at the DuPont Environmental Center in the Russell W. Peterson Wildlife Refuge.
We're at the DuPont Environmental Education Center on the riverfront downtown Wilmington, talking with Ed Key, Delaware's Secretary of Agriculture. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, are you a farm boy?
Not quite. I grew up in Newcastle, actually in a Langone Estates, but in the summertime I worked down at Nassau Orchards down at Lewis from when I was 16 on. And I was captured by that, and that's what led me into agriculture more than anything else.
So once you got the dirt under your fingernails, it just stayed
Well,
there?
two things. My father was the food purchaser at the Hotel DuPont. So I became interested in the food business, and then by chance I was exposed to the farming part of it, and the two meshed together. And so I was doing both ends.
But you went into it through the science.
That's correct. I went to the University of Delaware and studied agricultural science and got a bachelor's and a master's there, and did my master's thesis on lima beans. And there's probably 4 people in the world that have ever done such a crazy thing, but I was one of them.
Why do people hate lima beans?
I don't know. They're great. And one of my earliest memories are shelling lima beans with my mother on the back porch and hearing the beans go kerplunk. And they're high in protein. They're a good product.
See, I don't like them fresh, but I love them in soup.
There you go. There you go.
I don't think a lot of people understand how important agriculture is to Delaware. I mean, here we are in the middle of the state's largest city, and everything seems urban. But really, Delaware's not an urban state.
No, it's not, and we get that all the time. We get various farm groups in from the Midwest, and they're expecting a megalopolis, and as soon as they get to Middletown or south, it becomes a real rural area. 41% of our state's land mass is still in farmland, which is a very high percentage in the east, and that farmland supports about 2,500 farmers and about $1.2, $1.4 billion in ag sales every year. And that multiplies out with associate goods and services to about $8 billion of economic activity. But besides the economic impact, agriculture is part of Delaware's history, culture, and tradition, and I still think that's still pervasive.
Is Delaware experiencing the same things we read about in other places? I mean, certainly it is around Middletown, where the family farms are being sold to developers. And if that's true, is the state doing anything to try and sustain that ag land?
Yes. When I started my career in the early 1970s, there were about 650,000 acres of farmland. Now there's 500,000. Historically, over that time frame, we've lost between 1% and 2% per year. Now, in the mid-90s, a program evolved, our Ag Lands Preservation program, and we have permanently preserved about 105,000 acres, or maybe over 20% of what's left. And the state purchases a permanent easement, and that land must remain in farmland for perpetuity. And that's important not only for the ethic of farming, but it has real economic impact. When poultry companies, food processing companies look at Delaware and we can say, hey, 20% of our land will be here as farms, that helps them make decisions about staying, expanding, or coming to Delaware.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I'm a city-raised, a city boy, live in the suburbs now. Why should I care? But you've just given me an answer.
We hope you care, and we hope everybody cares. And in fact, I think one of my important jobs as an ag secretary is to explain those kind of things to the non-farm public, because it is also about quality of life.
When you think agriculture in Delaware, chickens come up.
Chickens, no doubt, are number one. The chicken and the corn and soybeans that feed the chickens account for about 75% of our total farm sales. There's about at any one time, at any one moment, there's about 125 million chickens walking around in Kent and Sussex County in up-to-date modern housing. It's a big deal, and it's about, combined, it's, $500 million worth of ag sales, plus employs 25 to 30,000 people in all associated industries.
Robin Morgan, at least for now, the dean at the University of Delaware, I guess she's leaving,
Right.
has said that the world won't survive without what she calls industrial farming. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and I think in the next 30 years, the world has to feed an extra 2 to 3 billion people. And the efficiencies that happen out there you can call it industrial, you can call it modern technology, whatever you want to call it, the efficiency that happens to produce those calories is absolutely critical to our future. And the interesting thing is, when people say industrial farming, in this state and in this country, still it's about 97 to 98% of the farms are operated by families. Now they may be corporations, but they're family corporations. And it's that sort of family dedication that makes it work.
You were talking about the family farms. They may be corporations, but they're family farms. But you read a lot about how the next generation, they're not interested. They're running off to get law degrees or business school, and they're not really coming back to the family farm. Is that a problem?
It's a problem. I think it's also overstated, quite frankly. When I was a young man, the average age of the American farmer was 55. Today it's 57. And the statistics is kind of an anomaly, because when they report in the census, the guy they report as the farmer is dad. Well, dad becomes grandfather, passes away, and then by the time the next generation comes along, that generation is 50 years old. The other thing is, we could take a ride downstate, and on just about every farm, the next generation is there waiting. And there's a lot of 20, 30-year-old people out there that are taking over and learning to trade from mom and dad. So that's very real.
Why are they doing that?
They love it. They absolutely love it. And if the farm is structured with a minimum of debt or a manageable level of debt, and there's a real plan there, these young people are making a good living. The other thing on the young farmers is we started a program, and Governor Markell embraced it, the Young Farmers Program, and we're celebrating 10 young farmers that have gotten an interest-free loan from the state for a period of time to help them buy their first farm. So we've done a great job for 20 years preserving the physical resource of the land. Now we're beginning to invest in the human resource.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
You're connected with Content Delaware.